Piece 201, Travelers Among Mountains and Streams, is painted by Fan Quan in 1000 CE of ink and colors on silk. The context is Fan Quan was a recluse. He was disenchanted with the behavior of humanity, so he sought out nature and looked for solutions in nature. He painted art pieces, but only this one has survived. He didn't paint a specific place. Instead, he was just kind of looking at nature in general as a teacher, as an ideal for what landscape should be and what human relationships should be. He was a follower of Neo-Confucianism. Neo-Confucianism is a revival of Confucianism, and Neo-Confucian art looked toward nature for examples of moral behavior, orderly life. So when you look at this in nature, just mountains and streams and mist and waterfalls, they live a symbiotic life. They help one another out, they get along, and together they produce something beautiful. Fan Quan is telling us that that's where we should look for our own morality and order for life. He's also telling the emperor this as well, that the emperor's subjects, we can all get along, we can have a great relationship with one another, and nature will be the guide for that, the role model for that. In terms of form, this is a hanging scroll, 7 foot long. It would hang so that we would be at eye level with this foreground, and then in the museum we would be looking up at the mountains that would be essentially towering above us. This is a monumental landscape painting, which China is famous for. They were painting landscapes because of this influence of Neo-Confucianism. They were painting landscapes hundreds of years before Europeans were. They also painted them in monochromatic or just black ink color. And to get the variety of colors here from gray to dark black, he is thinning the ink with water, and he's using various sizes of brush and brush stroke. For example, he would have made dark black lines here, and then would have filled in between the lines with short strokes, almost like dropping raindrops onto the silk. Takes a lot of skill. And the effect was that he, like you can see here, this is a middle ground here, this is a background, and the rocks in the very bottom are our foreground. Between these three regions, there is a negative space area. So here, this is a stream dividing the foreground to the middle ground. And then between the middle ground and the background, there's this misty area where he certainly has diluted the ink. And what happens is we mentally have to jump from the foreground to the middle ground to the background. But it gives the whole piece a huge sense of depth and distance. So these are considered his light ink washes right here, where we have the mist created. The other content or form that's important here is that there is no one spot that we're looking at as a viewer. Instead, our perspective shifts. You haven't seen it yet, but right here there is a mule train. And if we were standing right here in the museum, we would see the mule train. We might look at that, look down the stream. Our eyes might wander up here to the middle section, the mist, and then up to the mountains. But it's not that there's one point to look at. This is a shifting perspective piece. The whole looming, massive mountains reaching toward the skies gives this whole feeling of power and awe, and for nature. And man is a little teeny tiny insignificant creature in this whole charade. So you can see here, this is a man right here, and this is a mule train. But there at the very base, between the foreground and the middle ground, kind of hidden, quite insignificant in relation to nature. Here's a close-up of them. Also, kind of, this is man's influence on environment. You can see that this is a building. It's on the top of the kind of the middle ground, but it is dwarfed by nature. And in terms of kind of artistic skill here, Fan Quan has woven it into nature. The concept of humanity being insignificant is really illustrated by Fan Quan's signature, which was not found until 1959. Here, kind of buried in the leaves, are Chinese characters that make out Fan Quan's name. So we think that he is saying to us also that he too is insignificant compared to nature. So the function is Travelers Among Mountains and Streams is illustrating this Neo-Confucian thought that nature is where we can look for our guidance, and it's where we can find truth, and we can create our, have our own cultivation of ourselves and who we are once we defer and refer and learn from nature. So Travelers Among Mountains and Streams by Fan Quan, 1000 CE, ink and colors on silk.